Let's take a look at my top 10 classical recordings of all time. Now, some of these are going to be on LP and some of them are going to be CDs. First up on the list, Rachmaninoff Symphony No. 2, Yuri Temirkanov. Rachmaninoff's music is, of course, romantic and even hyper-romantic, and for some reason, critics like to bash this work for some reason. I don't understand why. They say it's sentimental, it's cloying, you walk out of the concert hall humming the melodies. I don't understand what's wrong with that. It had an effect on you. And again, this is probably the most romantic symphony ever written, and Temirkanov's is the most romantic interpretation of this symphony ever written. Now, for balance, I should state that most people recommending a Rachmaninoff second will do so from the 1973 Andrei Previn version. That is a superb Rachmaninoff second and a good one to start off with. I find this one is just a little bit more personal and just a little bit more emotional oomph to it, so I prefer to listen to this one. You can tell I collect these. The original EMI Angel pressing is fine, but this original master recording by Mobile Fidelity is my favorite. The surfaces are a little bit cleaner, a little bit more care taken into producing this. And it's also been on CD. There have been numerous CD reissues. You know, people like to debate which CD is the best. They all pretty much sound the same to me. Now, is this the most important piece of music on this list? No, it's not. Is this the greatest recording on this list? No, it's not. But I'll tell you what, if I had to choose one recording to listen to off this list right now, it would be this one. Next up on this list, we have one of the most famous and certainly one of the best-selling LPs of all time. It is also the only recording that's on this list because of its sound quality. And it is, of course, the Telarc Digital 1812 Overture, Erich Kunzel, Cincinnati Pops. Now, Telarc recordings to me are the best sounding recordings ever made. Doesn't matter whether they're LPs or whether they're CDs. They all sound just so fantastic, and I'll pick them up just because of the label. Sometimes I'm not even interested in the music. So it's got the Capriccio Italian on the other side. It's got the 1812 Overture on the A side, but come on. You're not buying this recording to hear Tchaikovsky. You're buying this recording to hear the cannon shots. And if you look in here on the liner notes, it actually tells you how they recorded the cannon shots. There's almost more of that than there is about the music. When you bought it, it came with a warning label on it. Put this on your system at your own risk. Audio magazines showed pictures of the grooves, but you didn't really even need the pictures because you could just hold the record up to the light and you could see the cannon shots, especially those last two, and how much it's deflecting in the groove. Audiophiles complain, this record destroyed my speakers. This record destroyed my turntable. It ripped the stylus off. I have seen tone arms jump the groove on those last two cannon shots. That's kind of wonderful in a way, isn't it? So from the best sounding recording on this list to the worst sounding. Next up, Moussorgsky, Pictures at an Exhibition, Richter at the piano, Sofia, Bulgaria, February 1958. Now, this recording, it's been subjected to many different processes to try to clean up the sound, but you know what? It's gonna sound bad. Just accept it, it does not sound good. And even if you were to clean up the sound, the problem is there must have been a flu or something going on in Sofia at that time because there is a constant accompaniment of people coughing all throughout Richter playing the piano. So why is it on this list? Well, what he does at the piano is nothing short of astonishing. Astonishing doesn't even cover what this guy does. When he gets to the end, you'd swear there are 10 pianos up on stage, and then there are 10 pianists playing them. It's almost hard to believe. There's one guy doing all of this. It is a hair-raising recording, one that makes you sort of want to stand up and throw your hat into the air at the end. Now again, about the recording, this is the Philips. This is one of the more popular ones that came out. It's been subjected to a number of processes. This is a no-noise recording. I don't like the no-noise process. Some detractors refer to it as no music. But just accept the fact the sound's going to be bad, turn up the sound, and just be blown away by what Richter does at the piano. This one, the 1956 EMI Beecham Bohème. You know, Puccini, he really understood human emotion. I think perhaps better than any other writer that's ever lived. He understood why you feel the things that you do. La Bohème has been described as the greatest piece of art about the act of falling in love. Throughout the entire opera, that's what you feel like. It feels like you're falling in love. And he gets it right. You know, in the movies, two people fall in love and suddenly, you know, it's great, right? But it's not like that in real life, is it? When you first fall for somebody, you don't know the person. What you tend to concentrate on is one thing. For example, Leonard Bernstein in West Side Story, he meets somebody named Maria. He knows he's in love, but he doesn't really know anything about the person. This is the way it is in real life. The only thing he knows is the name Maria, and so he sings an aria called Maria. It's the same thing in La Bohème. There's a poor artist living in an attic. Woman walks in, and it's cold there, and he doesn't have a lot of money, and he touches her hand, and the hand is cold. So he's fallen in love, but all he knows about her right now is that she has a cold hand. And when he sings Que gelida manina, he is singing to the hand. It's amazing. The second act, you had the two lovers together alone in the apartment, where they're outside in Paris, and there's a lot of commotion going on. And we've all been here, right? There's a lot of exciting things going on superficially, but they're sitting at a table and they only have eyes for each other. How many times have we all been through that? There have been many great La Bohèmes recorded over the years, but this one is widely considered, and deservedly so, the greatest one that's ever been recorded. I don't know if anybody's ever going to surpass this thing because it was a dream team, it was a dream cast. Beecham was born to conduct this piece. The story about this piece, in the second act, there's a very short section where children run across and they sing something to a toy vendor who's on stage there. And, you know, children are notoriously difficult to direct. So they set up the shot, the children run around, they sing the song, and it's perfect. They nail it on the first take. Everybody's relieved. Good, we can move on. Thomas Beecham gets up and he says, okay, cue it up, let's do it again. And everybody's like, you know, operas are expensive to produce. You're consuming a lot of people's time and resources. So they do it again because he's the conductor, and it's perfect again the second time around. Afterwards, they asked him, why did you do that? Why'd you make everybody do that again? And he said, you know what? I love this music so much, I just wanted to hear it again. Next up, another vintage recording in really bad sound. This, of course, is the Furtwangler Bruckner 8. There are 3 known versions of him conducting the symphony. They are all in really terrible sound. Now, just to get that out of the way first, I know that there have been newer transfers and processes done to these. I don't really know as if there's enough signal for them to play with. It's always going to sound really bad, really congested, no highs, no lows, everything's just really compressed. I just accept it. It's okay. And you know what? It doesn't matter. Furtwangler, as soon as this starts, 80 minutes later, you crawl out of a hole and you wondered what happened to you. When he conducts the slow movement, oh my goodness, you forget to breathe. I remember the first time I listened to one of the Furtwangler Bruckner 8s, and I brought a book with me. I sat down in front of my audio system. Maybe I'll read the book while he's conducting. You know what? I didn't read a word of that book. I was spellbound the entire time. And I remember after the slow movement, I actually kind of looked up and I went, whoa. Next up, another obvious classic, Beethoven Symphony No. 5 and No. 7, Carlos Kleiber. Now, if you get this on LP, these are separated. 5 will be on one LP, then you got to go get the 7 on the other. I like to get them on CD because you have them both on one disc. Now, Carlos Kleiber, a reclusive guy, didn't record a lot. Everything he did was worth listening to. And this is one of the few LPs that you'll still see being sold and reissued in record stores. It's that popular and that well known. So the problem with Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is, you know it too well. You almost can't evaluate it as a piece of art. If you're a visual artist, it's kind of like the Mona Lisa. It's so, part of our culture now. When you actually see the Mona Lisa, it's kind of difficult to evaluate it objectively as a piece of art. So while the fifth is an outstanding interpretation, I'm going to point you to the seventh. It is an astounding recording. It really is a dance-like symphony, and nobody plays that up better than Carlos Kleiber did. At the end of the last movement, it is just terrific. You just feel so good, and I don't know what he does with it because I've heard I don't know how many countless Beethoven sevens. This is the best one of all. This is a must-have recording in your collection. Yuri Egorov, Schubert, Musicaux, November 1987. He knew he was dying, and while this wasn't the last concert that he recorded, this one is commonly considered to be the one where he says farewell to the world. And you can hear it at the piano. He's saying goodbye. This is not easy to listen to, and this one comes packaged, by the way, with the D958 Sonata. The Sonata is very good, but no, you want to hear it for the Musicaux. Now, this is not technically demanding music. I mean, I can play this stuff. I have played this stuff, and I play it for people, and they say, yeah, that sounds pretty good. The problem with that is I'm holding myself to this standard, and I'll just never measure up, and I had to stop playing it. So I have this on the shelf. I don't take it down very often. It's just a tough recording to listen to. He was only 33 years old when he died. Chopin Nocturnes, Ivan Moravec, piano. This recording has appeared on a couple of different labels. I have the one on Nonesuch. It doesn't matter. This belongs in your collection no matter what label it's on. The greatest concert I've ever been to in my life was a recital by Ivan Moravec. Now, this guy didn't perform a lot and he didn't record a lot, so anything he did, it's worth seeking out. I remember I was living in Cincinnati at the time, and the backdrop of the stage looked weird. They had lowered this thing, and someone came out and said, well, the artist's preference was that this thing get lowered behind the piano by 3 feet, and it almost looked like it was a stage that had been put together incorrectly. There's another recording by Moravec of the 4 scherzos. Again, very highly recommended. It's on the Dorian label, and in the liner notes, it says that when they made the recording, Moravec made adjustments to the microphones as small as 1/16 of an inch. This is a guy who cared about what he was doing, and he cared about what you heard. At that concert, he played Chopin's Second Sonata, and I remember just feeling cold and shivering all over when it was done. I don't even know what happened to me. Just, again, the greatest concert that I've ever been to. What he does here with these Chopin Nocturnes, little 5-minute miniatures, while he's playing them, he convinces you that these are the greatest pieces of music ever written. Now, Chopin Nocturnes are very popular, of course. There have been 3 indisputably great cycles of this work. They are, in order, from the most objective to the most subjective: the Rubinstein on RCA, the Claudio Rau on Philips, and my preference is the Ivan Moravec on Nonesuch. True lovers of Chopin and of great piano music, you'll want to get all 3 cycles. At number 2, German Requiem, Carlo Maria Giulini, Deutsche Grammophon. This is, if you ask me on which day it is, I could name this as my favorite piece of music of all time. Now, Brahms, as a composer, everything he did sounds like autumn. It just does. It was the way he composed. You can feel the leaves changing and falling off the trees. You can feel the weather getting colder. You can feel the sun setting in the west and it getting a little bit cooler as it does. It's just the way he composed. But to me, none of the works that he made were as autumn-like as the German Requiem. And it's a masterpiece, and what's amazing about this is he composed it when he was relatively young, and it sounds like a far more mature work than it actually is. Of the world's great requiems, most of them focus on the person who has departed. This one flips it around a little bit. It actually addresses the survivors, the people who are still around after the person who has departed. And what Brahms appears to be saying is, no, it's all right. It's going to be okay. This person has left us, but you have to carry on, and you can still do some good in this world. You know, there have been times in my life when I've gone through hardship, I'll put on the German Requiem and I'll feel a little bit better. Now, the Giulini to me is my favorite. I should point this out for balance. If you were to poll most music critics and most music lovers, most of them would name this one as the top German Requiem. This is the Otto Klemperer recording on EMI. This is a superb German Requiem. If you're coming to this work for the first time, I'm even saying you should probably start with this one. I like the Giulini because it's just a little bit more heartfelt. The emotions are just a little bit deeper. There have been some theories about this, that perhaps Giulini himself had been going through something in his life, and he used the making of the recording to sort of work it out for himself. You can feel there's something a little bit extra going on there. By the way, that's the only recording I have in this whole collection that I can't show you because I don't have it here. And you might be asking why, if it's so high on your list. Well, there's a reason for that. When I really like a recording, I'll sometimes buy 2, 3, 4 copies of it. And when I find someone who likes this kind of music, I will loan them the CD or the LP and say, just give this back to me when you're done with it. Well, I've done that several times, and I have forgotten who I loaned them to. They haven't come back to me, and this recording is out of print. If you're one of these people I've loaned this to, please get it back to me. So again, start with the Klemperer if you want to. It's fine. Even if you want to end with this one, you're not going to go wrong. Now, Otto Klemperer in pop culture is perhaps best known as the father of Werner Klemperer, Colonel Klink on Hogan's Heroes. By the way, you psychologists out there are going to have a field day with this. Why is he doing that? Well, his son's probably finding a way to rebel against his father. But the story goes that for a while, Werner Klemperer tried to hide what he did for a living from his father. It was easier back then without the internet, but of course his father found out anyway. One night, Otto Klemperer sat down and watched Hogan's Heroes. And Werner Klemperer said he had to leave the room, couldn't be there at the time. Show ends, comes back to his father, "What do you think?" And Otto Klemperer looks at his son, he says, "You do good work. But who is the author of this piece?" You know, when I was compiling this list, I was like, I wonder what I'm going to put at number 1. And the debate really didn't go on very long. I knew which one was going to be number 1. Scotto, Bergonzi, Madame Butterfly, Sir John Barbirolli, EMI. Now, if you don't know the opera, this is actually based on some real events that happened around the turn of the 20th century. American servicemen went to Japan to trade. And back then, Japan was not the powerhouse they are today. Japan is not a country that has a lot of natural resources. So they didn't have a lot to trade. But they said, you know what? We do have these young girls. Perhaps, we could work something out. Madame Butterfly tells the fictionalized story of one of these young girls. They arrange a marriage. Everybody thinks it's a big joke, but she takes it seriously. She thinks all of this is real. Now again, Puccini was a master at depicting human emotion. I don't think any writer in history has done this quite as well as he does. And the thing about Puccini is, once he gets his claws into you, he's not letting up. Just when you think things get as intense as they're going to, he turns the screws on you more, and he makes you even more uncomfortable, and then he turns the screws even more, and you're just feeling so uncomfortable, you almost just don't want to be there anymore. Go to a performance of Madame Butterfly, you'll see people with their heads in their hands, you'll see people walking out, and I just can't take this thing anymore. So the story takes place, she waits for him for 3 years. Every day she gets up and looks out the window, convinced this guy is coming back. It is just heartbreaking to watch. Now, I should point out, as with the German Requiem, if you were to poll music critics, I would say, if you polled 10 music critics and music lovers, probably 6 out of 10 of them are going to pick this one second. The one that's going to get picked first is probably the Tebaldi Bergonzi Decca recording from about the same time. Now, if you want to start with that one, again, with the German Requiem, it's fine. I find Scotto is a slightly better actress. I find her performance is a little more nuanced, and she has John Barbirolli backing her up. But it doesn't matter. Have a Madame Butterfly in your collection. It's not easy to listen to, but it's an experience you will never, ever forget. So there you have it, my list of top 10 classical recordings of all time. You know, looking over this list, I'm just shocked at the stuff I had to leave out. No 53 Callis Tosca EMI, no Bernstein, no Mahler, no Mozart. I mean, is there no justice in this world? But no, I'm sticking by my list. Let us know what you think top recordings are in the classical industry, and thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.